Welcome to the Leadership Lounge Book Club. We're so glad you're here. The Leadership Lounge is brought to you by Sedaris Agency, which is founded by myself, Chris Duncan, Alan Edwards, and Shannon McCoy. Book Club exists to keep us all accountable for our reading goals and honestly to make sure we actually finish the books that we say we're going to read. We meet every Thursday at noon Pacific time for 30 minutes. We try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. If you're watching us on YouTube, join us next week by heading over to sedaris.com/book club. That's Sedaris, CDAERIS.com/book club. There's a meeting link, sign up there, which will get you an email of all of the deets, plus the meeting link to join us next week. So real quick, before we dive into the book this week, let me cover the rules of book club. The first rule of book club is that we always talk about book club. Are there any questions about the rules?
What about book club?
We only talk about book club, Alan.
Yeah. Chris,
topical, please.
I mentioned to our little group chat today that this is one of those days where thank God for book club, because I had catching up from my trip to the Philippines. I had a bunch of other priorities like, oh, I haven't read my books yet. And then the whole world's going to watch me say I haven't read it. So that's what I did this morning. I got my 3 chapters in.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I did get a lot of messages today because it is spring break this week. So I know I was not supposed to be here and others were not supposed to be here. So it's understandably a low attendance week. So, but Jay's here. Thank goodness.
Chris, you even failed not to show up.
Jay.
Good afternoon. All right. To remind everybody, we are reading the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. This week we're discussing chapters 13, 14, and 15, and we're rounding the corner on this book. Less than half to go. So it's we're actually just talking about that. It's getting to be time we should start thinking about our next book. Chapter 13. Let's see. This chapter 13, finishes up the Mastering Adult Friendships section of the book. Chapter 13 was about motivating other people to change, which is an interesting chapter. Chapter 14 was people starting a new section, how to motivate people to change. 14 was people only change when they feel like it. And chapter 15 was unlocking the power of your influence, of course, in relation to getting people to change. So as always, we're going to take these lessons, talk about each of the chapters individually, and then how we might relate them to our work, our life, our leadership, and our people. That's sometimes a challenging part. Mel Robbins's topics are usually always family, personal relations related. So sometimes they have an easy twist, and sometimes a little harder to get them to relate to business. All right, let's dig into this a little bit. Chapter 13. Chapter 13, how to create the best friends of your life. This is the chapter where she goes into how she and her, through the advice that she gave her children, which she then didn't follow, advises them on how to get friendships when you have none. And I think her example was when she moved to a new town. And she equated that to her daughters moving off to college and having no friends and things like that. Shannon, what did you think about this chapter?
For me, I found it a little bit challenging in the sense that I've never been so, at least that I know of, so concerned about relationships or finding new friends. And I've always seemed to do amazingly well, even when I've lived in places where I have no family and pretty much no friends for a while. I guess I don't have the same fears that maybe she had behind that. However, I think that I could take some notes out of this, though, to apply, because one of the questions we might think is, well, what holds us back from going first in a situation, being the first one to speak up? So in a business sense, I have felt this concern because I've been in environments where I feel like there's all these different friends and they have their core groups and cliques, and I think, how in the world, why am I even here? How am I going to break into that? Because I expect them to come see me because I'm obviously the odd man out over here, which doesn't always happen, right? So I've been challenged to go ahead and put away any fears or some type of pride of seeming unintelligent or unknowing in some way and spoke first. And so I'm glad I did that, because it did help me to break ice in different ways, and just show myself that I should never really be fearful of that, because I could talk to anyone.
Yeah. And that, I think I probably should have prefaced that about this chapter, was that she had 3 steps that she recommended, and then she had some community steps. But the 3 steps were basically around the framework of go first, like be the first one to do things. The first one was to be first in complimenting people wherever you go.
Well said, Chris.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan. Another untrustworthy compliment.
Insincerely.
Go first in being curious. Go first in smiling and saying hello to everyone and anyone, and go first to do this without expectation. Which this reminded me. This was funny because I actually this weekend I was painting the walls in the studio. Which everyone loves to do. But I was listening to a TED Talk that just came up in the rotation about a lady who was an expert in flirting. And she was talking about this exact same thing, like how flirting creates relationships and creates friendships, not for the sexual act of flirting, but because it's going first, it's complimenting people, it's saying hello, that although that is the superpower of flirting, it's also how you make friends and be friendly and make acquaintances. So this, as soon as I started hearing this, I instantly went to this podcast, and I should probably put links to that podcast in the show notes for everybody, because it was a really good article about how you use this go first mentality to build friendships and build relationships in everyday life. So anyway, that's where my mind went to this. Jay, what was your take on this?
I struggled with these chapters because I don't necessarily agree with the premise that later on that you can't affect other people's behavior, because my whole job is affecting other people's behavior.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that isn't spoken out loud, particularly in chapter 13, is the difference between men and women. And I think as a general rule, men find an easier time of stepping in and introducing themselves. We're kind of geared and we're trained for that, whereas women struggle they're on the outside and trying to make room. So I think it's an important thing that we recognize that some of the struggles that she identifies may be gender related. I think, she also pointed out the difference between forming relationships or friendships as a child versus an adult. And they take a whole different skill set. As a child, those things just naturally happen through play. As an adult, you have to form the relationship before you get to the play part of it, whether it's a golf game or whatever it might be. So it's a whole different dynamic as an adult.
Yeah, this is where we really need new Haynes with us to push back on the gender, because it's just us 4 guys here.
Like I had stuff to say. I was like, nope, not going to say it.
Yeah.
Not going to go first.
Yep. Thank you for breaking the ice there for us, Jay.
Yeah.
Good compliment. I appreciate that.
She sometimes joins us at about 10 past, so hopefully she'll join and we can pull her back into this conversation.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think genders approach things differently.
So I want to, this is jumping ahead, and I say so be it. Jay, you kind of fill a consultant role, right?
Yes.
And you talk about what we all do for a living is we're trying to get people to change. However, the difference in what she's showing from a personal level in chapter 14, people will change when they feel like it, is that many times the people we're working with, they are requesting the change, meaning they've already initiated the change and we're just the tool they're using to get there. And that's how I feel like we can still be compatible with what the author is saying here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I unless anybody has anything else on 13, I think we should skip ahead.
Okay.
I did like, however, in 13, the fact this was a good reminder to just it's not a bad thing to stick yourself out there and say hello first and be the first.
Right.
I did like that aspect of it. That was a good reminder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at hello without expectations, but complimenting people, I always feel self-conscious or looking for ulterior motives. And that's
Yeah.
probably more, like she says, let them have those opinions about me. Just let me go 1st.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that like I
Mhm.
said, that blog post or that TED Talk was really good. She speaks specifically to that, the idea that that we've been trained to believe that is relationship flirting that's looking for an expectation.
Mhm.
And that if you try to remove that, it's just complimenting somebody, which is going to be tough for all of us and everyone, especially men. All right. Number 14, chapter 14. People only change when they feel like it. This chapter is about the stressors caused by wanting somebody to change and them not necessarily being ready or wanting to change.
Mhm.
Her fundamentals in this are 3 truths, which I know we're going to have lots to say on. The truths are, number 1, adults only change when they feel like it. Number 2, human beings are wired to move towards what feels good. And truth number 3, every single person on the planet thinks they're the exception. Except for me. So, Jay, I'm going to let you go first. What do you think? I know you got an opinion.
I think there is a lot of truth in that, but particularly when adults only change when they want to. That's absolutely true. But in terms of pulling them in a direction, encouraging them to want to change, that's where you work, is the want. It isn't the making the change. It's encouraging them to want to. And she talks about that. She talks about modeling behaviors and how you move from, as what I call nagging, to encouraging, to affect change that you want to see happen in a person. I think that's very true. The other elements that she has as far as truths ring fairly true psychologically, because humans don't want change. They will do everything in their power not to make any change until it becomes too uncomfortable to stay where they're at.
I think for me, it was a great reminder when she talked about the psychology behind people being told to be different, is that there's a psychological barrier to going, whoa, I have to defend myself. And to remembering that they're not just stupid. We're all like this. Because in my head, like, why won't you see this? This is great for you. Like, why are you being so willful against me? And it's just biology. They can't help it. We can't help it.
Yeah, absolutely. Shannon, what were your thoughts on the truths?
I did struggle with this a bit at first because I came at it from a coach's point of view, a person who really is a cheerleader that also puts pressure on people to be accountable for themselves and the things that they said they want to do. However, that is the big difference. It's like what Alan pointed out earlier, is that means that so there are certain people who have already decided this is what they want. And so they're coming to me as in hopes that I will help them get to where they want to be. And if that takes pressure, so be it. And because the first thing I started, I don't know, kind of like kicking back towards this theory, because she mentioned, it was a scientist that brought this to her attention, that she was working with to write this out this way. And I started thinking of somebody like Michael Jordan, who hated being told that he wasn't good enough. Yes, he hated that, and the pressure to be better and everything. But he has a champion's mindset in the sense that he says, "But it's like all or nothing. Anything, it's a lack of success or failure is unacceptable. I will achieve my goal, and so help me, pressure me, push me, direct me." As long as I know you are helping me to become the best version of myself, then I'm okay with that. Matter of fact, not only am I okay, give me more, And so at first I was struggling with that, but then I came to an understanding, well, yeah, but that's also a person who is at a point where they want the help and support.
Yeah. And I kind of had that same thought as I went through this, because I instantly came up with the exception, which was, well, what about elite athletes who literally torture themselves on ultra marathons? That's not moving toward what feels good, unless it's something else that's driving them, right? So, and semantically, I have trouble when people lay out truths. Like, is it the word, putting it as a truth. Like I go back to the Einsteinian proofs and things like, well, is this an actual truth? Like there are no exceptions to this?
Zoom out, Chris. Zoom out.
I know. It's just me. That's just me. I get that. But
I'd say theorems are more appropriate.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
Good. Yeah, that's correct. So I thought of those people too, like you're saying, Shannon, like what is the drive to be so miserable that it overcomes our want to be comfortable? Like if a truth is that we want to move towards things that make us feel good, then the outcome of torturing ourselves for 5 hours in a marathon must be something greater than the torture that the physical event that we just endured. Like going to the gym, the benefit is worth more than the effort in theory. Which
What's the gym?
my neighbor who does my lawn.
Yeah.
Good old gym. Hey, I pay for the gym. I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes me feel good, and I feel better about myself. Yeah. All right. Anything else about the three truths?
I'm ready for unlocking the power of your influence.
Oh, wait for it. All right. Unlocking the power of her influence. She has a clever ABC that she comes up with for the ABCs of unlocking your influence, and then the 5 whys method. So, Alan, actually, you want to take us through these?
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, it's also freshly read. I had finished like 3 hours ago.
I figured so.
Yeah, ABC: apologize, back off, and celebrate. So what that means is, apologize, and then ask open-ended questions. Hey, I'm sorry, I've been nagging you about this. Why does you think that you enjoy her scenario might be being a couch potato? Oh, is that why? Okay, and then just back off and observe what they're doing. That's the B. Back off. Stop nagging. Stop activating that defense mechanism that's happening in the other person. And then C, celebrate progress while continuing to model change. So it's like, wow, I noticed you went for a walk yesterday. That was amazing. Good job. She even mentioned like in a relationship, like giving the husband a kiss when he got back from the gym, just as a little reinforcement of like, you do good, you feel good. I made you feel even better when you got home, modeling that behavior. And I did appreciate hearing this. I think it's what I've done accidentally. For example, I'm a co-parent in a mixed family, and my wife said, "You can be her parent and do these things." But what I realized is she would immediately undo what I said, completely unintentionally. Right? Not change her behavior. I could not change my daughter's behavior. So I took a different approach. I'm a strict person to my word, right? I will not say it if it's not true. I can't help it. And so what I would do is I would only have a talk with her about disappointment or things that didn't go well using her own words. Hey, you said you weren't going to go to that rave last night or overdrink that night or whatever the case is, but then you did. What happened? Oh, well, this happened and I felt bad about myself, and just listening. And, I'm sure hormones have something to do with it, but after a couple of years of this, she's able to self-reflect on, I said I wanted this because I do, so I'm going to do these things. And by the way, she survived teenageness. She's 19. She goes to the gym on her own. And she does all these wonderful things, got her own job, pays her own rent. It's amazing. I'm going to take full credit on this call just to let my wife or her see it.
Yeah, 3 witnesses.
And I wrote down one other note too, is she asked she mentioned the 5 whys method, and I'm on an audiobook, so I'm like, the letter, or is this but no, it's when you say I want them to do this, you have to ask why. And she said, oh, ask why 5 times at first. Like, wait, that's just the same answer. Like, no, whatever your answer is, ask why to that answer. And then you keep diving deep, and about the 5th time, you're at the root cause of what's really going on. For example, and hers with this husband who was a couch potato, and it's like, why? Well, because he's being lazy. Okay, well, why does that bother you? Oh, it's because I feel like he can do better. Well, why does that bother you? Well, I want to be married to him a long time. Well, why is that? Because I really care about his health. Okay, well, now you have a platform to begin to understand somebody, what they're going through, and to understand what you're doing, besides trying to get an action. What you want as a result. lifelong partner,
Yeah.
not life short partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Shannon, what were your thoughts on 15 and how do we apply that at work?
Let's see here. I think that's how I applied it. Is I was looking at uh, like, let's say a session that we just had yesterday. Alan and I sat down and he did some coaching. He did my coaching yesterday, and one of the things I was looking at is that again, like the questions like why. I mean, I think there's quite a few questions you could ask over and over. What, why, want, what do you want? What do you wish? And you can start using all these W's and just go down deeper. But what I found is that I started realizing that some people will maybe even feel like they're pressuring me, and they may have fears that I think they're pressuring me, but I actually want that. So I feel like, oh, am I different? Am I weird because I want to be pressured? But I think, well, I guess what I came up with my own epiphany, and it was my own theorem about this, is that I started thinking that what makes the big difference is the person's vision of why they do what they do. Like, what's the desired outcome of this? If a person's thinking, like for me, the reason why I've been, working out for most of my life is because I have this vision of this body and this energy, this health, picture of health that just never leaves my mind. It's a solid, I mean, it's like you can't shake it, Whereas other people, maybe that fades, or maybe they don't even have they're like, why am I even doing this? Whereas for me, I always know the answer to that. It's always right there. And so I was thinking that maybe that's also the difference when somebody finally does, you think they're lazy and all of a sudden they start working out and doing these things. Maybe that vision becomes clear and they don't think they're the exception anymore. They see the writing on the wall, so to speak. I mean, it's like the difference of a doctor telling you need to do this. Then the vision's clear, right? Crystal clear. And I think some people have that without having to see a physician or what have you. They just have a beautiful vision towards the future, and that's why they put themselves through so much pain.
Yeah.
And then, of course, learning that we can influence people because we have that, so we can influence people instead of pressuring them. Let them follow me.
There's a dark side to all of this. There's people who think they should be doing some sort of way, or that somebody else should be some sort of way because of the Joneses and media and everything else. And I know in consulting, I hear stated goals so many times, and then after they miss those goals enough times, you're like, do you really want this? And you know what? I probably accidentally used the 5 whys method. Why do you want this? Well, why that? Why this? Trying to figure out what their true motivation is. And I'm looking for red herrings like, well, all the other IT firms in the world are doing this. Like, okay, well, but their motivation is different than yours. What do you want? And why do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah. Jay, what do you think our takeaway from this is?
That question of why is central to any kind of personal growth. It really gets to the core of changing people's lives and helping them and helping yourself understand the why behind anything you want to accomplish. It's different than goals. It's more deep. It really cuts away all of the other outside influences when you can break down and really discover, why am I doing this? What is my ultimate satisfaction I derive out of doing whatever? And when you can get to that heart of everything, then you have a foundation. You can start building on it. And that's why I was really hit by the 5 whys. Yes, it's a surface level why, but it is much deeper than that. It starts drilling into the core of who the person is, and in her case, why somebody else's behavior affects me so much. Why do I allow that to bother me? What is my why behind all that? And it allows you to start moving past their behavior and start really focusing in on the only thing you really can't control, your own behavior and how you perceive things.
Yeah. Well said. I think that was one of my big takeaways from this was the modeling change part, was that, and it applies to our family life, of course, but also at work. Like we should be exuding the image of that we want others to be modeling. Basically, it is restating an apple as an apple. If we want people to show up on time, we should be showing up on time. If we want, whatever it is, we should be modeling that change. And I think that's, most are aware of that, but it always is good to have a reminder of that as we move along.
Chris, even that question you just asked, showing up on time and modeling it, you dive into that. Why is that important?
Because
I've argued that point many a time.
Yeah,
but
showing up is on time is just an action, but the why behind it in terms of the respect it shows for the job you hold, the others around, that's the area you have to drill down to get effective change, is so that the person who has a problem with showing up on time really begins to understand how it impacts other people, the why behind why you make that decision.
Yeah, and then conversely, sorry, go ahead, Shannon.
I was just going to say, well, maybe similar to what you were saying. Conversely, it's that we ask the same things to ourselves. Why, right? So she used the example. Mel used the example of asking yourself this question, and you may find out, for example, that the reason why it bothers you so much that your son is drinking is because you find it as an embarrassment to you personally. You never realize that, but that's why it irritates you so much. Maybe he's just starting to drink a little bit, and your fear is he's going to drink too much, and eventually he's going to embarrass the whole family. I didn't raise him like this,
Yeah, my grandmother.
Well, and I think not modeling that change makes you a hypocrite. And I think there's even large tomes that tell us not to be hypocrites. So I think it was like, I think a lot of the chapter we're reading, they're good reminders of the things that we should be doing that maybe we stopped doing. All right, well, we're getting close to the end of the or I guess the bottom of the hour here. Next week we're on chapter 16, 17, and 18. And then after that, we're at 19 and 20, which basically represents the end of the book. So we're going to go through those 2 weeks, but it's time to start choosing a new book. I know, Jay, you definitely have an opinion on this, but we're going to, fingers crossed, right? So I think what we're going to do is stick out a LinkedIn survey and do preload it with some books that we want to read next. And I think I'm going to poll those that have been most participating in the weekly meetings to get their ideas of things, and send that out so that we can start getting prepped for the weeks after. But until then, thank you everybody for being here. Alan Edwards, Shannon McCoy, Jake Jacobson. I appreciate all of your thoughtful comments. That's it for today on the Leadership Lounge. We'll see you next week, next Thursday, same time, same place, Thursday at noon. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Hey, Chris.